Hello everyone, welcome to Meat, Fish and Poultry Process Technology lecture series. My name is Shiv Prasad. I am an assistant professor at Department of Food Technology, Vignan's Foundation for Science, Technology and Research. So in today's lecture, we will be having a discussion on one of the important and interesting topic, that is pre-slaughter handling and inspection of animal. Okay, so whenever we are talking about pre-slaughter handling and inspection of animal, there are three important factors that has to be considered. So the three important procedures that has to be duly considered for this particular thing includes the transportation of an animal, transportation of meat animal, pre-slaughtering rest and ante-mortem inspection. So these are the three important procedures which has to be duly taken into consideration whenever we are talking about pre-slaughter handling of meat animals. Okay, so let us now understand individually what is about the transportation, pre-slaughter rest as well as the ante-mortem inspection. Okay, so whenever we are talking about transportation of meat animal, so we are aware that the animal can be transported either by foot, that means we can make the animal walk all the way from one place to until it reaches the abattoir or the slaughterhouse, and it can be transported on roadways and it can be transported via railways. So these are the three most commonly used transit method for transportation of animal from one place to until it reaches the abattoir. As we are actually evidently seeing this particular picture, so the animals are being stuffed whenever they are being carried. Okay, so these are the most evident pictures which we daily come across in our day-to-day life. Okay, so here you can actually see a person carrying poultry in a cycle by hanging them upside down. So this is not the way how exactly the animal has to be transported. So there is certain rules and regulations which are in place which will effectively define and gives us a set of rules which have to be effectively followed and implemented whenever the animals are being transported. So doesn't matter whichever the mode of transport it is, the paramount important as a human being is that the animal should not be exhibited, an animal should not suffer any kind of a cruelty. So that we will have to make sure. To ensure this particular cruelty against animal, there are certain set of laws which are in place which have been implemented by the central government. To give you an example, we have section 429 of the Indian Penal Code. So section 429 of Indian Penal Code gives us an idea that whenever an individual is involved in any kind of an inhumane behavior or activity against any kind of an animal, he or she are liable for punishment under the law. Okay, so irrespective of the gender, so they will be liable for punishment under the law. Okay, so second important law which is in place is the Prevention of Cruelty of Animal Act 1960. So besides that, we also have a specific law which is in place which exclusively deals with transportation of animal rule 1978. Okay, so considering this particular rule, that is the transportation of the animal 1978, this gives us an idea about what are all the methods that has to be in place and what are all the rules that has to be followed during the transportation of an animal from one place to another place. Okay, so let us have an understanding on the Transportation of Animal Act or Rule 1978. Will give us an idea about what is the maximum distance that an animal can travel in a single day. If we are making the animal walk by road, then we will have to consider this particular rule into consideration. So according to this particular rule, so if we are making a cattle walk from one place to another place, then the maximum distance that can be covered by a cattle in a day should be just 30 kilometers. So similarly, in the next consecutive day, if it is taking more than one day to reach the abattoir or any other place, then in the first consecutive day, the cattle can make a journey of 24 kilometers, and the subsequent days it can make a travel of 22 kilometers only. Okay, so similarly we have sheep as well as goat. So we can make a sheep or goat walk from one place to another place in a day for only 24 distance. Okay, so if it is taking more than 1 day, for the first day it is 24 kilometers and for the subsequent days it is just 16 kilometers. So this particular table gave us an idea about what is the distance that a particular species can cover in a day and also the subsequent day, that is more than a day. Okay, so this is about the maximum distance for trekking. Okay. We have what should be the actual floor area per animal that is required for a type of an animal during the transportation. Okay, so this particular table gave us an idea or establishes the floor area that is required per animal in meters square. Okay, so if we consider mature cattle as an example, so whenever we are making a transport of mature cattle from one place to another place via a road, truck or by the train, so then we will have to make sure that the floor area that is provided for individual cattle should be 1 to 1.4 meters square. Okay, so similarly if they are considering small calves, okay, so they would be requiring 0.3 meters square of area. Okay, so similarly we have pigs, sheep as well as ostriches. So if we consider ostriches, so they require somewhere around 0.8 meters square of area during the transportation, because this floor space will ensure that the animal is having a proper space to sit as well as to stand, and also they are properly ventilated. So if we are stuffing an animal without providing them necessary space, so what ideally happens is the animal will suffocate and in turn there is always a possibility that they will end up dying. Okay, so to overcome this particular problem, the government has specifically given us a floor area which is required per animal whenever we are making a travel or transportation. Okay, so considering both of this as a factor, we will have to make sure that we are providing a well ventilated area or the transportation for the specifically meat animal whenever we are transporting from one place to another place. Okay, so this is as shown in this particular figure. So the animal has to be given a proper railing so that they can walk on into the transportation vehicle. Okay, so similarly here you can see there is a double decker system which is exclusively and specifically used for sheep as well as goat. So when we talk about poultry, so they will have to be specifically put in a well ventilated cage and it can be stacked one above the other, ensuring that there is proper ventilation. Okay, so this is how a meat animal has to be transported from one place to another place via the roadways. Okay. So the next important factor that has to be duly taken into consideration is the pre-slaughter rest. So whenever we are talking about pre-slaughter rest, so as the name itself defined, it is the resting period prior to the slaughtering of an animal. Before culling of an animal, the brief period of time where the animal is given proper resting, that period is considered as pre-slaughtering resting period. Okay, so let us now actually define and know the importance of this particular resting period and also the objective. Okay, so the pre-slaughtering rest is a period before slaughter when an animal are rested in order to improve the meat quality and reduce in turn the chances of contamination with gastrointestinal bacteria. Okay, so whenever an animal is given a proper resting period, the quality of meat is in turn improved. So how exactly the quality of meat is improved? So we will have an understanding on the same. Okay, so before going into that, we will have to have an understanding on what exactly the gastrointestinal bacteria actually are. Okay, so the gastrointestinal bacteria are the specific bacteria which are inside our body, specifically the small intestine. Okay, so the most predominant type of gastrointestinal bacteria which is there in our tummy or in our gut is coliforms. Okay, so coliforms are the specific group of microorganisms which exist in our tummy or gut. Okay, so whenever we are talking about coliforms, so we will have to predominantly discuss what are the important types of coliforms. So the first important type of coliform is Escherichia coli. Okay, so which is also written as E. coli. So this particular microorganism is gram-negative considering the Gram's reaction, and it is a facultative anaerobe. Facultative anaerobe. So whenever I say facultative anaerobe, so these are the class of microorganisms which can actually survive both in the presence as well as absence of oxygen. Okay, so they can grow and multiply both in the presence of oxygen as well as absence of oxygen. Okay, so this particular importance of bacteria is that so they are the indicator microorganism for fecal contamination. Fecal contamination. That means if we have the presence of this particular bacteria in any of the food matrix, it will in turn indicate that the product must have been contaminated with feces. Okay, so the second important type of coliform bacteria is Klebsiella pneumoniae. Okay, so Klebsiella species. So whenever we talk about Klebsiella, it means that it is a class of microorganism belonging to coliform, and this is the type of microorganism which induces or causes pneumonia disease. Okay, so the third important one is Enterobacter, and the fourth one we have Citrobacter. Okay, so these are the four prominent microorganism belonging to the class of coliforms. Okay, so of which most prominent and most important one which we will be discussing in our further slide is E. coli. So one thing that you will have to remember here is they are gram-negative and they are facultative anaerobe, and the presence of them in turn indicates the contamination of the food matrix with the feces. Okay, so that is about the gastrointestinal tract. So now let us have an understanding how exactly the pre-slaughtering rest will in turn have an influence on the overall quality of the meat that is being produced from an animal. Okay, so first thing we will have to understand that whenever an animal is making a travel or we are transporting an animal from one place to another place, so the animal will be extremely tired. That means it is fatigued and it will be restless. So whenever such kind of priority or whenever such kind of things happen, so the one thing that has to be taken into consideration is that there is always a possibility that the microorganism which is existing in our small intestine will surpass the mucosal barrier and in turn enters into the bloodstream. That means these set of bacteria which are regarded as gastrointestinal bacteria have a potency that if the animal is restless and if the immunity of an animal is low, so they have the probability that they can make a migration all the way from your small intestine, surpassing the mucosal barrier and entering into the bloodstream. So whenever the specific microorganism, that is E. coli, is inside the bloodstream, it is having an open channel and it can migrate to any other necessary organ. Okay, so that is how important the resting period actually is. So after the transportation and prior to the slaughtering of an animal, the animal has to be given a due period of time as a resting period, which is a minimum of 24 to 48 hours. Okay, so when such kind of resting period is given, then the animal immunity will recover back, and in turn the E. coli which is present in the small intestine will not be having any kind of a chance to migrate the mucosal membrane and entering into the bloodstream. Okay, so entering into the bloodstream will in turn contaminate the entire carcass. Okay, so that is one thing which has to be duly taken into consideration. Okay, so that is one thing. Okay, so the second objective of the pre-slaughter rest is the resting period of a brief period, that is 48 hours, should be a minimum resting period that has to be necessarily given to an animal, and there has to be a normal feeding. So there should not be regular feeding practices, because prior to slaughtering the animal should not be fed. Okay, so it will in turn have an influence on the breeding as well as the eventually the keeping quality of meat. Okay, So the third important point that has to be duly taken into consideration is the pre-slaughtering rest. Okay, so whenever we are talking about pre-slaughtering rest, so we will have to have an idea that the glycogen which is stored in our muscle, which is usually made up of polysaccharide, which is ideally the chain of glucose, will not receive enough of oxygen. So whenever our muscle tissue will not receive enough of oxygen, what ideally happens is that the glycogen will be converted to glucose, and in turn it will undergo anaerobic respiration because of insufficient amount of oxygen which is reaching the muscle tissue, and thereby it results in the production of lactic acid. Okay, so ideally what happens? We will have pyruvate and the ATP that is being produced. So under anaerobic glycolysis process, we will have the production of lactic acid. So the production of lactic acid will also have an influence on the quality of meat. Okay, a small amount of lactic acid that is ideally produced is desirable. Okay, because this lactic acid that is being produced in turn acts as a preservative. That means it will necessarily act as a preservative, thereby avoiding the growth of a broad spectrum of microorganisms, be it gram positive, gram negative, or it can be fungi. Okay, so the minimum amount of lactic acid that is produced is desirable. But if the excess of lactic acid is produced, okay, so if the excess of lactic acid is only produced when the animal is extremely restless. Okay, so if the animal is extremely restless, then it will induce higher amount of lactic acid production. Okay, so when higher amount of lactic acid is produced, it will have an influence on the quality of the meat. So how exactly? So the higher amount of lactic acid that is being produced will have a quality issue in terms of color, texture, as well as water holding capacity. Okay, so these are the factors which will have an impact if the excess of lactic acid is produced via anaerobic glycolysis. So that is the reason why the animal have to be given a proper resting as a period prior to the slaughtering, so that we will ensure that there is sufficient amount of oxygen which is reaching the muscle tissue, and there is only minimum amount of lactic acid that is being produced. So as we have already discussed, excess of lactic acid that is being produced will in turn have an influence, and thereby we will have to compromise with the quality of the meat that is being produced. Okay, so that is how important the pre-slaughtering resting period actually is. So next thing, we have ante-mortem inspection. So whenever we are talking about ante-mortem inspection, it is a preliminary inspection which is conducted on meat animals prior to slaughter to ascertain their fitness, whether animal is fit for the further processing or further slaughtering. So that we will ascertain by conducting an inspection called as ante-mortem inspection. So let us now understand what are the important objectives of ante-mortem inspection. Okay, so the first and foremost and the preliminary objective of ante-mortem inspection is to ascertain if an animal is suffering from any kind of a contagious disease, or it actually has a zoonotic disease or not. Okay, so whenever I say zoonotic disease, it is this disease which is transmitted from animal to human being. So whenever we are talking about zoonotic disease, it is of utmost priority that we exclusively discuss about three prominent important zoonotic diseases, that is FMD, which stands for foot and mouth disease, rabies, as well as anthrax. So let us now understand how exactly the veterinary doctors will be able to understand if an animal has suffered any of these diseases. So there the animals will in turn exhibit symptoms. Okay, so these symptoms will evidently define if an animal has suffered or contracted this particular disease or not. Okay, so the first thing we have foot and mouth diseases. Okay, so this is a viral disease which is exclusively caused by optovirus. Okay, so the important symptoms which is exhibited by the animal, which in turn confirms or gives us an idea that it might be, or the probability might be, of foot and mouth diseases include the blisters on the mouth as well as foot. Okay, so as you can clearly evidently see in this particular picture, so there are blisters all around the tongue as well as the mouth. Okay, so such kind of blisters will be observed in case of the mouth as well as on the feet of an animal. So that is the reason why this particular disease is called as foot and mouth disease. Okay, so besides this particular blisters on mouth as well as foot, the animal will also exhibit frothing in case of mouth. Okay, so there will be excessive frothing which will be observed. As you can evidently see in this particular picture, you can see there is an excessive frothing which is evidently observed in case of the mouth of an animal. Okay, so if this kind of symptom is exhibited, so there is a high probability that the animal must have contracted FMD virus. Okay, so besides that, the frothing of the mouth, we also have lameness. So lameness is nothing but the difficulty in walking. So the animal will not be able to walk properly. Okay, so these are the prominent symptoms which in turn will be exhibited by an animal if it has suffered foot and mouth disease. Okay, so to give you a summary, so FMD stands for foot and mouth disease, which is a zoonotic disease, and the most prominent type of symptoms which is exhibited by the animal, which in turn gives us a probability or an idea if it has contracted the virus or not, includes the blisters on the tongue as well as the mouth, as it is shown clearly in here, and also on the foot. Okay, and also the excessive frothing in the mouth, and also the lameness. The animal will not be able to walk properly. There is difficulty in the walking. So these are the prominent symptoms towards foot and mouth disease. Okay, so next important type of disease that we are going to study is rabies. Okay, so whenever we think of rabies, the first thing that comes to our mind is the dogs. Okay, so rabies mostly occurs in domestic dogs, but it can also occur to other kind of meat animals, especially the cattle. Okay, so this particular rabies is caused by rabies virus. Okay, so the virus which is responsible for this particular type of disease is rabies virus. Okay, so coming to the prominent symptoms towards this particular disease includes anorexia. So when we are talking about anorexia, it is abnormality in eating, or it is called as eating disorder. That means the animal will excessively eat, in turn it puts on a lot of weight. Okay, so the abnormality of eating is the anorexia. Okay, so next is lameness. The animal will not be able to walk properly, and one of the most and important and prominent symptom towards rabies is hypersalivation. That means there will be an excessive saliva that is produced in the mouth of an animal, which gives us an indication that the animal must have contracted rabies virus. Okay, so these are the most prominent symptoms the animal will in turn exhibit, which gives us an idea or a probability that the animal must have contracted rabies virus. Okay, so next important type of disease that we will discuss is anthrax. Okay, so anthrax is exclusively caused by a bacteria, that is Bacillus anthracis. Okay, so Bacillus anthracis is a type of bacteria which causes the disease anthrax. Okay, so coming to the prominent symptoms that is exhibited by an animal, especially the cattle, which has contracted this particular bacteria. Okay, so it includes high fever. The temperature of the animal will be extremely high. So the high fever as well as stupor. The animal will mostly be in an unconscious condition, and the animal will have problem with the respiratory as well as cardiac distress. Okay, so that is also one of the prominent symptoms. The animal will not be able to breathe, and the heart rate of the animal will be excessively high, and also convulsions. Okay, so these are the prominent symptoms as far as anthrax is concerned. Okay, so these are the three important zoonotic diseases wherein the animal or their diseases can be transmitted from animal to human being. That is FMD, that is foot and mouth disease, the rabies as well as anthrax. Okay, so the preliminary objective of antemortem inspection is to determine if an animal has contracted any such kind of a virus or a bacteria, which in turn is leading to the specific kind of a disease. Okay, so this is the preliminary objective. Okay, so the next important type of objective of ante-mortem inspection is to prevent the outbreak of food poisoning. Okay, so we will have to ensure that after the slaughtering of an animal, there should not be any kind of a toxins which is remaining in the animal body, because if the toxin is remaining, then it becomes heat resistant no matter how much you process your meat. So the toxin will remain, and in turn when a consumer is consuming it, so in turn it leads to food poisoning. Okay, so there are certain kinds of symptoms that will be exhibited by the animal if a specific responsible microorganism is inducing toxic production inside the animal. Okay, so whenever we are talking about food poisoning, it is of utmost priority that we will have to discuss about Shiga-like toxin. Okay, so this Shiga-like toxin is a particular toxin which is exclusively produced by the bacteria such as like E. coli as well as Shigella dysenteriae. Okay, so Shigella dysenteriae produces Shiga toxin, while E. coli O15H7 produces Shiga-like toxin. So these are the two prominent bacteria, which is also our intestinal bacteria, which are responsible for the production of Shiga-like toxin. Okay, so the most prominent symptoms that is exhibited by an animal, specifically the meat animal, whenever the animal is contracted with these two particular bacteria, includes fever, there will be high fever, and then there will be abdominal pain, so the animal will be extremely distressed. Okay, so and next will be fatigue, so the animal will be extremely tired, and next the bleeding from the nose as well as the mouth. Okay, so the bleeding is from the nose as well as the mouth in case of the cattle is predominantly observed if the animal is contracted such kind of particular bacteria which induces the production of Shiga-like toxin. Okay, so this is about to understand, which is the second preliminary objective of ante-mortem inspection, where if the animal is exhibiting any of these kind of symptoms, it gives us an indication that the animal must have contracted Shigella dysenteriae as well as E. coli O15H7, which in turn produces Shiga-like toxin in case of animal. Okay, so whenever consumer consumes that, they will in turn exhibit the symptoms of food poisoning. Okay, so this is of one of the important objective of ante-mortem inspection as well. Okay, so next step we have third and important ante-mortem inspection, that is so besides Shigella toxin or the Shiga-like toxin, we also have Campylobacteriosis. So Campylobacteriosis is a condition which is exclusively caused by a bacteria, that is Campylobacter jejuni. Okay, so Campylobacter jejuni is a bacteria which is responsible for Campylobacteriosis. So the most prominent symptoms that is exhibited by an animal when it is contracted with Campylobacter jejuni includes bloody diarrhea. So the animal excreta will contain blood, and also nausea. Nausea is nothing but where the animal will have an urge to vomit it. Okay, and also vomiting. Okay, so these are the three prominent symptoms which are exhibited by an animal when they are contracted with Campylobacter jejuni. Okay, so the Campylobacter jejuni will in turn leads to the Campylobacteriosis, which are the prominent symptoms we have already discussed. Okay, so these are the important type of toxins as far as food poisoning and the animal meat consumption is concerned. Okay, so next important ante-mortem inspection includes to detect intoxicants such as like tetanus and other infective diseases. So far we have discussed about the different kinds of zoonotic disease as well as the different types of toxins which are produced by different kinds of microorganisms. So another important intoxicant, that is tetanus. Okay, so this particular tetanus is produced by a bacteria, that is Clostridium tetani. Okay, so Clostridium tetani is the responsible bacteria for tetanus intoxicant production. Okay, so the most common symptoms that is exhibited by an animal when it is contracted with Clostridium tetani includes stiffness in the muscle. Okay, so the animal will not be able to move. Okay, so there will be a stiffness in the muscle which is prominently observed whenever an animal contracts this particular bacteria. So likewise, the prominent protruding third eyelid, okay, so which is also of the important symptoms which gives us an indication that the animal has contracted Clostridium tetani. Okay, so here you can evidently see there is a prominent protruding third eyelid. Okay, so which usually happens when an animal has contracted this particular bacteria. Okay, so which in turn produces tetanus. Okay, so this is also one of the important objective of ante-mortem inspection, which gives us an indication if an animal has contracted this particular bacteria or not. Okay, so next then we also have another important objective, that is documentation, which is another prominent objective of ante-mortem inspection. So to give you an example, if in specific region an animal which is subjected for slaughtering has contracted FMD virus, that is foot and mouth disease virus, then it has to be specifically documented and it has to be informed to the local health authority, specifically the veterinary officers, so which takes the preliminary precautions so that the further herd or the further cattle or any of the animal will not contract this particular virus. Okay, so likewise it has to be properly documented if the animal has contracted any such kind of a virus or a bacterial infection for that matter. Okay, so this is also one of the prominent important objective of ante-mortem inspection. Okay, so these were the important objectives. Okay, so now let us understand how exactly one can actually conduct this ante-mortem inspection. So as far as animal which has arrived on the slaughtering house, so what will be the general procedure which is conducted by a veterinary doctor to ascertain that the animal is not suffering from any such kind of a disease or not. Okay, so that we will discuss in this particular slide. Okay, so the procedure for the ante-mortem inspection can happen evidently in two distinct stages. Okay, so the stage 1 is the general examination and the stage 2 is the detailed clinical examination. So in case of general examination, so the animal will be ascertained for its fitness. Okay, so considering the animal behavior and the symptoms that is actually exhibited, so we can classify animal as healthy, unhealthy. Unhealthy animals are nothing but the animals which must have exhibited the symptoms of disease. Okay, so the next one is apparently healthy because they are the most doubtful cases. Okay, so this is the classification which we generally give for an animal during the general examination. Okay, so in case of detailed clinical examination, what ideally happens is, so in the first preliminary general examination we have classified the animals. Okay, so here the category of unhealthy animal as well as apparently healthy animal are taken into criteria. Okay, so they will be specifically examined for any kind of a clinical examination. So a detailed clinical examination for these two category of animal will be conducted in the stage 2 of ante-mortem inspection. Okay, so that is of important concern. Okay, so as it is said here, the animal classified as unhealthy, that is the diseased animal, and apparently healthy are subjected to further examination to correctly diagnose the illness. So since these two animals which are categorized as unhealthy as well as apparently healthy, so they will be exhibiting certain symptoms towards a specific disease. Okay, so these symptoms may be true or may not be true. Okay, to ascertain the truth behind these symptoms, we will have to conduct a clinical examination, that is a detailed clinical examination. Okay, so that is about the procedure towards the ante-mortem inspection. Okay, so now let us have an understanding on the individual stage. Okay, so now the first stage is general examination. So in case of general examination, what ideally happens? Okay, so as I have already told you, in case of general examination, so the animal overall health will be ascertained. Okay, and the animal will be classified as healthy, unhealthy as well as apparently healthy, that is the most doubtful cases. Okay, so what ideally happens is the animal will be examined during the motion and also during the resting period. Okay, so during resting, what are the behavioral changes that are prominently observed in case of an animal, and another thing when the animal is in motion. Okay, so as I already discussed, so lameness is one one of the most prominent symptoms of most of the diseases. So lameness is nothing but the animal will not be able to walk properly. Okay, so that can be seen only when the animal is in a motion. Okay, so this particular general examination of an animal should happen both during the resting period and also during the motion. Okay, so when the animal is actually moving. Okay, so the second important thing are they are observed for gait, posture, fatigueness, and for their response to the external stimuli. So gait is nothing but how exactly the animal is walking. So if the posture of an animal is proper during the walking or not, so that we will observe, and also the fatigueness. So if the animal is exhibiting the symptoms of tiredness, so that might be also an indication of a specific kind of a disease. Okay, so all of that we will be examining, and also how exactly the animal is behaving towards the external stimuli. So whenever an external stimuli, that the temperature or any kind of a change in temperature, so how exactly the animal is actually behaving. So all of that we will be thoroughly examining under the first stage, that is general examination. Okay. So the next important thing that we will be ascertaining here is the animals are examined for the abnormal discharge. So if the animal is exhibiting any kind of an abnormal discharge through any kind of an open natural orifices like eyes, so as you can actually see here, and also the nose, okay, and the mouth in case of the mouth, and also the anus, and also the vagina. Okay, so if the animal is exhibiting any kind of an unusual discharge from any of the natural orifices, which includes the eyes, nose, mouth, anus as well as vagina, then it might be an indication of a prominent type of a disease. Okay, so all of this will be exclusively ascertained in case of your general examination. Okay, so these might be the prominent symptoms towards a particular or a specific kind of a disease. Okay, so this is about the general examination towards the ante-mortem inspection of an animal. Okay, so next important thing is they are examined for abnormal behavior like walking in circles, state of alertness, symptoms of tiredness as well as agitation. Okay, so as we are already aware, so in case of rabies, walking in circle is the most prominent symptom. So the animal, excessive salivation as well as walking in circle. So if an animal is seen to be walking in a circle, okay, so then it gives us an indication that the animal must have contracted the rabies virus. Okay, so that is how we are determining this particular symptoms towards the rabies. Okay, so next time we also have at the end of this particular first stage of examination, that is the general examination, the animal will be classified as fit for slaughter, while the other two groups taken for the next stage of examination. As I have already told you, whenever an animal is being examined in the first stage, that is a general examination, they will be classified into three distinct classes. That is, the animal is fit, unhealthy, and then it is suspectful. Okay, so what they are doing, the animal which seems to be healthy, they will classify them as fit for slaughter. So such animal will be directly, after a certain period of time, they will be subjected for slaughtering procedure. So if the next two stages where the animal is unhealthy as well as doubtful thing, so they will be moving on for the next stage of examination, where the animal will be detailedly studied. That is the clinical examination. Okay, so this is the aim of the general examination. So the general examination is just to ascertain if the animal is exhibiting any kind of a prominent symptoms towards a specific kind of a disease. So if the animal is exhibiting, then they will be distinctly classified, and then if the animal is healthy, they will be sent for culling or slaughtering, and the next two distinct classes will be sent for another type of examination, that is detailed clinical examination. So this is about the stage 1 of post-mortem. This is about the stage 1 of ante-mortem inspection. Okay, so next thing we have the stage 2 of ante-mortem inspection, which is the detailed clinical study. Okay, so the detailed clinical examination or the clinical study is the stage 2 of ante-mortem inspection. Okay, so as I already told you, so detailed in this particular examination or the stage, what happens? The animals which were classified as unhealthy or apparently healthy, okay, so during the preliminary examination from the first stage of ante-mortem inspection, so they will be thoroughly studied for any kind of a clinical symptoms that is exhibited. So they will be in turn confirming if the animal has actually contracted this particular bacterial infection or the virus or not, okay. So the preliminary investigation that is conducted by a veterinary doctor during the detailed clinical examination, so the first thing includes the temperature. So the increase in temperature, if the animal has contracted any specific kind of a bacterial infection or a virus, so then there is specific symptoms, that is the raise in temperature, the body temperature of the animal. So the increase in the body temperature of an animal will be specifically uncertain. So besides that, the heart rate. So if the heart rate of an animal is regular or it is extremely low or increased, so that will be ascertained in the preliminary investigation also. And the respiratory action, okay, so if the respiration is extreme or it is extremely vigorous, so that we will be ascertaining. So this is the first investigation which is conducted in the stage 2 of ante-mortem inspection, okay. So if the animal is found to have fever, that the body temperature of an animal is extremely high, then what exactly has to be done is the animal has to be segregated from the rest of the herd and it has to be sent away from the slaughterhouse for any specific kind of a treatment that can be provided to the animal, okay. So that is the preliminary step that has to be taken if the animal has a fever, okay. So next important type of examination that is conducted in the stage 2 includes the lymph node of an animal are palpated and then they are examined, okay. So that is of important concern because the lymph node swelling ideally happens if there is a bacterial infection or if there is a presence of tumor and everything. So that we will study further, okay. So in case of the cattle which is subjected for slaughtering, so that cattle will be subjected for lymph node examination. So the lymph node, so specifically as I have already shown you in this particular figure, so the animal will be palpated in here, okay. So these are the spots where there is lymph node, okay. So why exactly that has to be done? So the inflammation in an organ near to any of the lymph node will indicates the enlargement of the lymph node. So if the animal has suffered any kind of a inflammation, if there is a extreme pain, that means there will be a swelling that will be observed in case of a lymph node. So the palpation of the lymph node will give us an idea that the animal must be under extreme pain, okay. So next type of thing that is important towards the palpation of the lymph node is the bacterial infection. So if the animal has contracted any kind of a bacterial infection, then there will be a swelling that will be ideally observed in case of the lymph nodes in case of cattle, okay. So that can be ascertained by palpating the lymph node, okay. So similarly, it also helps to diagnose cancer, okay. So if there is a tumor, okay, so that can be felt by palpation of the lymph node, okay. So this is the second important detailed clinical examination towards ante-mortem inspection, okay. So that is the palpation of the lymph node, where the animal will be palpated and then in turn it will be evaluated if it has any of these kind of a symptom. Alright, so this is about the second important objective of detailed clinical examination. Next thing we have the pregnant animals. So if the animal is carrying, okay, so then such kind of animal will not be subjected for slaughtering. And also the animal which has parturited, that is, it has given birth to a calf, then they will not also be permitted for slaughtering before 48 hours of period. Okay, so that is also one of the important things that has to be taken into consideration. Okay, so next thing we have the animals which are under a specific kind of a treatment. So if the animal has administered with any kind of a antibiotic or a vaccine, then it has to be taken duly into consideration that such kind of animal will not be subjected for slaughtering. So what ideally happens if the animal is under specific antibiotic treatment, so the presence of antibiotic will be there in the animal body for at least a period of 72 hours. Okay, so if during that period if the animal is subjected for slaughtering, there is always a possibility that the traces of that antibiotic will be in turn carried to your meat. Okay, so that is one of the important thing that has to be taken into consideration. If by any chance we are seeking a consent, that is the no objection certificate from the veterinarian, who will in turn indicate that the presence or the animal which is being administered with a specific kind of a treatment, then if he is giving his or her consent towards the slaughtering of an animal, that is they are signing this no objection certificate, then we can carry on and move forward with our slaughtering. Okay, so that is how this particular animal which has or which is currently under treatment or under the administration of any kind of an antibiotic will be subjected for slaughtering or culling. Okay, so this has to be taken into consideration. So next in case of detailed clinical examination, so the samples of an animal towards the blood, urine as well as feces are collected, and a detailed examination in the laboratory, that is the clinical examination, will be performed on this individual samples. Okay, so which will in turn indicate if there is any kind of a specific kind of a bacteria or a disease which might have been present. Okay, so these are the important 5 steps which comes under the stage 2 of detailed clinical examination. Okay, so in the next stage I have established a table which will give you an indication of the corresponding disease and the abnormalities which is encountered towards the ante-mortem inspection. Okay, so the first general condition that is observed in case of an animal is moribund and exhausted state. Okay, so whenever I say moribund, the animal will be under the verge of death. Okay, and the animal will look extremely exhausted. Okay, so if such kind of general conditions are observed in case of an animal, then in case of cattle it might be an indication for the actinomycosis. So whenever I say actinomycosis, it is a general condition which is a bacterial infection which in turn affects every other organ in case of the animal. Okay, so the animal or the bacteria will infect every other kind of an organ in case of cattle. Okay, so the moribund or an exhausted state in case of cattle is an indication of actinomycosis. So similarly in case of calves it is an immaturity. Okay, and in case of sheep it is pneumonia. So pneumonia is a condition where one or the other lung, that is or both the lungs are affected. Okay, so the effect can be either by bacteria or it can be from fungi or it can be from virus. Okay, so the pneumonia is an infection to the lung where one or both the lungs are affected by bacteria, fungi or the virus. Okay, so next we have arthritis, that is joint pain. Okay, so in case of swine, arthritis is indicated by the general condition, that is moribund as well as exhausted. Okay, so the animal, corresponding animal specific infection towards this general condition. Okay, so this is about the moribund as well as the exhausted state. In case of emaciation, so emaciation is the animal will be extremely thin or weak. So the animal will be extremely thin or extremely weak, which is also an indication. Okay, so in case of cattle it is actinobacillosis. Okay, so actinobacillosis is an indication in case of cattle. In case of calf it is calf diphtheria. Okay, so in case of sheep it is caseous lymphadenitis. Okay, so caseous lymphadenitis is a particular kind of a symptom which is caused by Corynebacterium pseudotuberculosis. Okay, so Corynebacterium pseudotuberculosis is the one which causes caseous lymphadenitis. Okay, so this is the bacteria. So what this bacteria does, as it is clearly indicated, so the lymph node will be swollen and it will be accumulated with a lot of pus. Okay, so let me just show you a particular kind of a diagram which will give you an indication of caseous lymphadenitis. Okay, so this is predominantly observed in case of sheep. So what ideally happens in the lymph node, there will be a pus formation which is ideally observed. So this is also an indication of caseous lymphadenitis. Okay, so in case of actinobacillosis, which is also regarded as wooden tongue, so which is prominently observed in case of cattle, so there will be blisters all over the tongue. Okay, so the tongue will be extremely hard and there will be blisters which appears in yellow in color. Okay, so this will in turn gives us an idea that the animal has this wooden tongue syndrome or actinobacillosis. Okay, so next thing we have atrophic rhinitis, okay, which is chiefly observed in case of swine. Okay, so this atrophic rhinitis is a condition or a condition which is occurring to the lungs. Okay, so the respiratory and the lung will be affected. Next important type of general condition is anasarca. So in case of anasarca, it might be tuberculosis in case of cattle. Okay, so the tuberculosis is caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Okay, which is a responsible bacteria. Mycobacterium tuberculosis is the responsible microorganism to cause tuberculosis. So anasarca is generalized swelling all over the body. Okay, so swelling, if swelling is observed, it might be because of tuberculosis in case of cattle, and in case of calves it can be the arthritis, that is the joint pain, okay, or swelling, and enterotoxemia. Okay, so enterotoxemia is also a condition which is specifically caused by Clostridium perfringens. Okay, so Clostridium perfringens is a type of bacteria which causes enterotoxemia. Okay, and also in case of swine, the anasarca might be because of atrophic rhinitis, which is again the condition related to the lung. Okay, so these are the important type of general condition and the specific infection towards the distinct class of meat animals. Okay. So the post and ante-mortem inspection of an animal which is subjected for any of the following three decisions. So after ante-mortem inspection, what will be the judgment of the veterinary doctor? Okay, so how exactly he will comprehend about the status of an animal. So it can be classified into three important decisions. So three decisions towards the ante-mortem inspection can be made by a veterinary or a trained doctor. Okay, so what are they? So the first one is the animal is passed, accepted or fit for slaughter. That means the second one is the animal are rejected, condemned or unfit for slaughter. So when I say passed, accepted or fit for slaughter, so the animals are free from any kind of a contagious disease or zoonotic disease, and it can be directly sent for slaughtering purpose. That means the animal can be directly sent after the ante-mortem inspection for the slaughtering purpose. Okay, so the next important decision that the trained veterinarian will do is he will either reject, condemn or unfit for slaughtering. Okay, so when such kind of decisions are made, when the animal is suffering from extreme fever, if the temperature is anything more than 106 degree Fahrenheit, and emaciated or dead animal or immature animal or pregnant animal. Okay, so these are the categories or the conditions which has to be duly considered. So whenever an animal fall under this particular criteria, then the veterinarian will eventually reject the animal or condemn the animal, or he will declare that the animal is unfit for slaughtering. Okay, so this is the second type of decision. So the third type of decision that the trained veterinarian will make is that he will declare that the animal is suspectful. Okay, so under suspectful category we have slaughter under special precaution. Okay, when I say slaughter under special precaution, the animals under this particular category are exhibiting a specific symptoms towards a kind of a disease. Okay, so that is the slaughter under special precaution. Okay, so such animals should be segregated and then they have to be slaughtered away from the slaughterhouse or after the entire batch of slaughtering of an animal. Okay, so that is about slaughtering under special precaution. So the next one is delayed or detained slaughter. Okay, so delayed or detained slaughter, when exactly it happens? If the animal is having any kind of a history towards a specific kind of a disease, or if the animal is administered with any kind of a specific antibiotic, then the veterinarian will declare that the animal can be slaughtered, but a delayed or the detained slaughter has to happen. That means there has to be a specific period of time that has to be given so that the residue of this antibiotics will not remain in case of any part of an animal body. Okay, so the next important thing is segregated slaughter. So this kind of segregated slaughter ideally happens if the animal is extremely dirty. Okay, so what happens? So the dirty stock or the animal suspected to have any kind of a contagious disease are declared to be segregatedly slaughtered. Okay, so they have to be segregated from the rest of the herd because they are extremely dirty and they must have also contracted any kind of a contagious disease. So they have to be separated from the rest of the herd and they have to be separately slaughtered. Okay, so next type of classification under the suspect category is casualty as well as emergency slaughter. Okay, so when I say casualty slaughter, so the casualty slaughter is required when an animal is not under any kind of a acute pain or immediate danger of death. So what are the conditions which has to be considered here? Being superficial tumors as well as paralysis. Okay, so that is about the casualty slaughter. Okay, so if the animal is not under any kind of a deadly contract of the diseases, then they can be considered for the casualty slaughter. And also the condition includes beginning superficial tumors. By palpating the lymph node, they can actually determine if the animal has any kind of a tumor. Okay, so if it is found and if the animal is under paralysis, then they will be considered for casualty slaughter. And next one is the emergency slaughter. So when I say emergency slaughter, it is the immediate action that has to be taken. So the immediate action, because the animal will be under extreme pain. So animal must have suffered severe injury, or it must have suffered fracture, or it can have also uterine prolapsed. Okay, so these are the conditions. If the animal is suffering from, then they will be considered for emergency slaughter, because the animal welfare organization will not want the animal to suffer, because these are the conditions where the animal will be extremely painful. So it is of utmost priority that such kind of animal will be subjected for emergency slaughtering. Okay, so these are the judgment or the decision towards the ante-mortem examination. Okay, so I hope this particular concept of ante-mortem inspection is eventually effectively understood by each and every one of you. So to give you an overview of what we have studied in today's lecture, so we have studied the post-handling of an animal prior to the slaughtering. Okay, so which we have effectively covered the transportation of an animal, so how exactly the animal has to be transported, and also what is the importance of the pre-slaughtering rest, and also the important objective towards ante-mortem inspection. Okay, so these are the important conditions which have to be effectively considered prior to the slaughtering of an animal. That's all for today, guys. Thank you very much.